I got a response to one of my commentaries from Russell Welch, who wrote this. He said, "Tough for you old communists to see your religion fall and be rejected all over the world." Well, thank you, Russell, for that contribution. Actually, it got me to thinking, though, and I looked it up. About 1.5 billion people live under communist regimes. That's about 20% of the global population, and it includes countries like China, North Korea, Cuba. I think Karl Marx might be kind of happy with that. China alone has over 1 billion. According to the most recent figure from Democracy Report, 29% of the world's population, about 2.3 billion, live in either liberal or electoral democracies. But here's the most troubling figure: about 39.2% of the world's population live under authoritarian regimes. That works out to around 3.1 billion people. Countries like China again, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, North Korea. And if the current regime in Washington has its way, we're going to be there too. The United States is a republic, a form of liberal democracy where the people elect their representatives who then make governing decisions on our behalf. The number one reason that most democracies fail is the gap between the haves and have-nots, the aristocracy and the workers, the rich and the poor. The most famous example of what happens when people finally revolt is the French Revolution, a virtual explosion that overthrew Louis XVI and his court and sent thousands of courtiers and aristocrats and the clergy to the guillotines. Unfortunately, they ended up throwing out the baby with the bathwater. All the people who knew how to actually run a government lost their heads. And in less than a decade, a young soldier of the revolution by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte took over, eventually became emperor, and the rest, as they say, is history. We almost had it happen here in the 1930s with our Great Depression. So today we're at an inflection point. Has there ever been a greater disparity than what now exists in this country between the very rich multi-billionaires and the working class? I think history tells us that if we don't do something, do it now to start democratizing this country once again and righting the ship of state to address the needs of all of our people, not just the millionaires and billionaires, I think there is eventually going to be a much less peaceful solution that none of us really want to contemplate. That's why this next year is so important. We have to win and win big enough for the technocrats to realize that if they don't start contributing more of their wealth to the common good, then people will eventually do that for them. And that will be very ugly. Onward. En Egbach.